I had always been a man of principles, but nothing had prepared me for the moment when the war would come to my front door. It started with a simple, calm morning. Coffee in hand, standing on my porch, I watched as the HOA president Karen Whitfield made her way onto my lawn with two of her minions, Carol and Bob. Karen stood there, clipboard clutched like a weapon, and her voice cut through the air. "That structure has to go, and you will pay a $10,000 fine for erecting it without approval." "Mr. Miller," she said, as if she owned the place. As I stared back at her, I couldn't help but wonder how someone like her could have so much power over people. It was absurd. You see, my property wasn't just land to me, it was my family's legacy. My grandfather had built this place from the ground up. It was where I grew up, where I raised my family, and where I'd built a smokehouse in honor of my late grandfather. A smokehouse. Nothing more, nothing less. But to Karen, it was a violation of the HOA rules, a symbol of defiance, something she couldn't allow. Karen's eyes were cold, scanning my property as if she had the right to judge it. She was wearing her usual bright pantsuit, always too tight, and as I could tell, perfectly picked for the role of the righteous HOA president. Her cronies flanked her, holding their clipboards like they were sacred objects. There, standing on the lawn, they looked like they were ready for a fight. I kept my voice calm. "I think you're mistaken, Karen. This is my property, and this smokehouse is part of my history. It's got nothing to do with your HOA. She laughed short and sharp, a laugh that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Oh, Mr. Miller, your property is within Oakwood Preserve. That makes it our business," she said, pointing to a page on her clipboard. "Article 7, Section 4 clearly states any outbuilding over 100 square feet requires approval. You never submitted a plan. You never paid the application fee. Therefore, you're in violation. $10,000 plus $500 a day until it's removed." I stared at her, that number sinking in. $10,000. Just like that, she thought she could destroy something I'd built with my own hands. A building that wasn't just a structure to me. It was a memory of my grandfather and the bond we shared. "Karen," I said slowly, "my land's been in my family since 1903. It's not part of your HOA, never has been. You have no jurisdiction here." Her smile dropped, replaced by a cold, sharp anger. "We'll see what the county court says when we file a lien on your property," she said. "You've made this more expensive for yourself, Mr. Miller. Remove it or we will." And just like that, she turned and walked off with her lackeys, leaving me standing there, the coffee in my hand now cold. It wasn't just the smokehouse. It was my land, my family's legacy that was being threatened. As the days passed, I realized that Karen wasn't just some petty HOA president. She had something more than power. She had an agenda. But what she didn't know was that I wasn't some guy she could easily push around. I had history on my side, a history that couldn't be touched by her bylaws or her threats. This wasn't just a fight for the smokehouse. This was about my family's history, my right to live as I pleased on the land I'd inherited. But what she didn't know was that I had a secret weapon, an ace up my sleeve. A piece of paper signed by a president over a century ago. My great-grandfather's land patent issued by Theodore Roosevelt himself that guaranteed the land was free from the control of anyone else, including Karen and her HOA. You might think this is where I'd start to fight back, right? Well, not yet. First, I had to gather my strength. I couldn't fight her in some petty confrontation. I had to outsmart her, use the law to my advantage, and that's where my old Army buddy Dave came in. Dave wasn't just a lawyer, he was a bulldog, and he hated bullies more than anything. When I sent him the photo of the fine, his response was immediate. "Jack, my man," he said, his voice full of excitement, "this is the case I've been dreaming of." Dave's advice was simple. Document everything, fight with precision. And when the time came, hit them with the legal documents that would tear apart their entire argument. So that's exactly what I did. I dug into the history of my property, pulling out every document I could find. Every letter, every map, every survey. I even had the original land patent in my hand. Then came the letter from the HOA. A formal declaration of war full of legal jargon and threats. They were serious about destroying my smokehouse, but it was too late. I was ready to fight back. My response was clear, professional, and precise, outlining every legal right I had from the land patent to the survey maps. It wasn't just a rebuttal, it was a counterattack. I wasn't going down without a fight. The silence after sending the letter was almost unbearable. For weeks it felt like I was walking through my life on eggshells, waiting for their next move. And then it came. Not a letter, but an email. A community-wide email blasting me for being a sovereign citizen and accusing me of stirring trouble. But it was more than just words, it was a call to arms. They had enlisted the entire neighborhood to turn against me. The HOA had created a spy network, a community watch to report violations. They were watching me. But I didn't back down. Instead, I started to make friends with my neighbors. I didn't bring up the HOA. I didn't need to. All I did was walk my dog, wave at people, and be a friendly neighbor. Slowly, things started to change. People started coming to me with their own stories of harassment, fines, and mistreatment by the HOA. We began to band together. The more I learned, the more I realized this wasn't just about my smokehouse. It was about the entire neighborhood being controlled by one woman and her cronies. The turning point came when a local news reporter, Jessica, got wind of what was happening and contacted me. I agreed to an interview, and suddenly the story was everywhere. The neighborhood was buzzing with the news. Karen tried to fight back, but every time she opened her mouth, she dug herself deeper. The news crew caught her in a moment of rage, and the footage went viral. Things escalated quickly after that. The HOA tried to backpedal, but it was too late. The pressure was too much. Their arrogance had caught up with them, and it was only a matter of time before they cracked. And crack they did. Within days, Karen and her entire board resigned. The apology came next, and the public humiliation of the HOA was complete. But the best part, the community was finally free from her grip. It was a victory not just for me, but for everyone who had ever been bullied by an HOA. But the story didn't end there. The legal battle wasn't over. I still had the lawsuit, the fines, and the threats hanging over my head. But Karen's reign was officially over. The justice system had worked, and the community was better for it. As I stood there watching my neighbors finally take back their lives, I couldn't help but think, this was a victory well earned. It was a victory smoked slow and low, just like my grandfather's brisket. Justice, I thought to myself, is best served smoked. And as for Karen, well, she was gone. Her kingdom crumbled, and the scent of victory was in the air.